Division III players getting opportunities to go and play pro. And we're going to start, Jimmy, I'll let you lead it off. Two of your boys down there with the Blue Devils.
Yeah, it's funny because these are the two shortest kids on the team, and yet they're the ones that are going pro. So shout out to Pat and Richie on these opportunities. It's happening to two great guys. Obviously, Pat, captain, first team all whack, all purpose back. Every stat in the book from this guy: catches, carries, touchdowns, like you name it. And then Richie Murphy, the king of the NIL, supposedly. 52 tackles, 3 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, second team all whack, defensive back. Accolades for the kid. Really, really pumped for these dudes, and they're gonna make a big impact on the Eau Claire Axemen very early and often. I think with these two, it's gonna be fun to watch for sure.
Eau Claire Axemen, it's their first year in the Arena League. They're an expansion team down in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Pat Corcoran Evans, Richie Murphy, both coming out of the ranks of UW Stout in the WIAC, the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference at the D3 level. And for those of you not familiar, that's the best conference in D3 football, and it is not even close. So the Eau Claire Axemen, they'll play a 9-game schedule from May to July. So that's coming up here pretty shortly. And you talk about the Arena League, man. It's 7v7 football. That actually got upped from 6-on-6 just a year prior, which is an interesting kind of neat deal right there. The field, half the length of regulation field, is 50 yards long, 85 feet wide. That combination of feet and yards is silly, but whatever works.
I was going to say, why would they do feet and yards? Like, that's kind of
don't know. And the field is surrounded by those large, like, padded walls.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because then you get those guys catching touchdown passes, like, going out back over the wall. It's awesome.
I can already see, like, Richie, like, tabletopping someone over the wall, like, in the tackle. And I got Pat, like, diving over the fence for a catch or whatever. I can already see it happening, dude.
Is awesome. So the teams, this is where it gets really interesting. The teams have 15-player rosters, and I think they can hold more than that. It's a little under 30 as far as their entire roster goes, but as far as the active roster, I believe it's about 15, and the players have to play both ways. It's a platoon style, so the players have to play both sides. So I know during that tryout process, Richie does a great job. He's been doing a YouTube series, Richie Murphy. Definitely check him out. He's been doing a YouTube series chronicling his journey, but he talks about that. And coming from a DB background, he had a tryout at wide receiver as well if he really wanted to make the team.
He can't catch, though. Richie's in trouble. He can't catch.
Oh. Hey, he looked pretty good in the clips he was putting up, man. He was routing people.
No, he can definitely run some routes. Richie's smooth, but like I don't know about the hands, man. I'm a little nervous for him.
We're gonna learn.
He'll lock some people down though. He'll lock some people down, make some nice plays in defense. But we'll see about that receiver. We'll see about that.
It's interesting though. I mean, you got to play both ways. That's what you're signing up for. Not many breaks there, and you have to play both sides of the ball. This is probably the coolest thing though with the Arena League. From what I read, it says that all players and coaches communicate with helmet communication systems that fans will be able to listen to in real time.
Ooh.
Pretty fun.
Yeah, that's dope.
I wonder how they do that.
Yeah.
In terms of how you listen, right? Is that like they're not just putting it over the speakers?
No. I don't know. Kobe, you sound like the guy that should know. Why are you asking me?
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good point. But I'd be very curious to hear how they pull that off if they've been doing it. I got to do some more research. This Arena League does sound like fun. Some other fun kind of quirky rules here. The kickoffs are replaced with a quarterback throw-off, and there's an onside conversion option available, right? So all forms of kicking the ball are prohibited. That's from what I could tell, including punts and field goals. Not allowed. So certainly makes for a fun brand of football. They also have the same rule as the XFL when it comes to allowing 2 forward passes, as long as they're both like, or the first one is like behind the line of scrimmage, something like that. So there's a lot of unique quirks there. So those two gearing up for the Axemen will be excited to follow along with their careers. Let's move over. And how about Jalen Todd, Washington and Lee going on to play in Finland, Jimmy?
Yeah, the Porvoon Butchers. Very cool name, the Butchers. I love that. Jalen Todd's quite a butcher on defense, just decapitating people. 124 tackles, 3.5 sacks. I mean, this guy's a stud. I mean, he's got all these accolades. AFCA, first team All-American, Associated Press, second team All-American, Walter Camp, Division III All-American. I mean, first team all-conference, defensive player of the year in his conference as well. I mean, this kid's a stud. Finland, they're getting a guy. They're getting a guy out in Finland for sure.
Absolutely. He's a guy that during the regular season tallied 22 tackles in one game. which is a pretty
Yeah,
impressive feat.
I think we talked about that on the show. We had to
Yeah,
have. But I remember I'm like 22 tech.
I
Remember that?
believe we did because
Yeah,
I
I
remember.
think it was that
Yes.
kid.
That is
Had to
outrageous.
have
But
been.
you talk
Yeah.
about, I mean, he's got all the accolades, all the production. And so with these guys, it comes down to, well, it's being overlooked, right? It's not putting up the right numbers at a pro day or a combine type event, and it's being undersized, right? And those are the guys that are get these chances overseas and do these other opportunities, which are incredible. The Butchers play in what's called the Maple League. They finished the 2024 regular season with an 8-4 record. They were eliminated in the semifinals by the eventual champions, the Helsinki Roosters. And you
Oh.
might be cheating by looking at the rundown, Jimmy, but you know who's on the Roosters over there across the pond?
May you remind me?
I may. That would be Ethan Greenfield, the former stud from North Central. He was a Gallardi Trophy winner and a guy that ran for, I mean, over 6,000 career yards in his time down in Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah, we've talked about Ethan Greenfield quite a bit on doing rejects back in the archives of years past. He's
Yeah.
definitely been a name that's been on here more than a handful of times for sure.
He's an absolute stud. He's been over there playing with the Roosters. They've got some pretty cool uniforms, a fun logo, and he has been
Yeah.
tearing it up over there, just like he did when he was in the States playing for the Cardinals. But kind of a fun little tidbit there. There's a couple other D3 guys that have made their name in that league as well. The season also runs during the summer, so a very different football season for them when it comes to American football. But we'll keep it going. Harry Roubidoux from Wisconsin, Eau Claire. He's going to play down in Chihuahua in Mexico. And this guy is one that, again, you talk about a lot of production from him, right? He graduates as Eau Claire's all-time leader in completions and pass attempts. His senior year threw for 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, and had 16 interceptions to go with that. So kind of a Jameis Winston-esque stat line, but certainly has the ability to complete the big pass. Talk to me about him. I'm sure you got to see him up close in person.
No, yeah, this kid's an absolute gunslinger. Doesn't play with any fear. I really like the way this kid plays. Very patient in the pocket. You know, he can make some plays outside the pocket too. Forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. Cadillos de Chihuahua in Mexico.
Pretty good, brother.
I believe Harry's gonna make a big impact on there. He's gonna just be slinging that rock like no tomorrow. I'm looking forward to following his career.
Absolutely, man. They compete in the Liga de Football Americano Profesional that was founded in 2019. They were the undefeated league champions in 2023. So, again, sometimes it's hard for us, you know, without knowing to gauge the level of competition at these places. But if you're winning the league, you have to imagine you got some dudes on that roster. He certainly will add to that. And has made his impact on that blue gold program as a team that's been, you know, obviously experienced its fair share of hardship being at the bottom part of a really talented conference. For him to go in and be on a contender and a winner in that league, I think the underappreciated part of this, is to go and experience a whole new culture and a whole new place, all while being able to go over and play football over at a place like that, whether it be Mexico, whether it be Finland, a lot of different spots. It's got to be a really neat deal for these guys. But we got one last one that's staying in the States in the UFL. It's Luke Lehnen, the quarterback for North Central. He is with the Arlington Renegades, which I got to say, out of all of these, man, to end up with the Renegades for a guy like Luke, certainly deservingly so. I'll give you the cliff notes on Luke if you've not heard of this guy, which I don't know who you are, but he played every game the past 4 seasons for North Central College. Talk about a guy that is the epitome of durable and dependable. For 3,000 yards passing, 39 touchdowns, also ran for 14 more on the ground. He's got the NCAA All Divisions record for touchdowns responsible for at 208. The only player in collegiate history with at least 50 rushing touchdowns and 100 passing touchdowns. So those are kind of a couple of the big ones. He also has a record for most consecutive games throwing a touchdown pass and just a lot of other statistics. We've talked about him a bunch here. I mean, was that a surprise to you that he ended up getting an opportunity at the next level? I mean, with the UFL at that?
I don't know, man. I just don't know if he did enough in college to get. I can't even get it out, man. This kid's an absolute monster, dude. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten like a ring from the league, honestly, to get like a practice squad or something like that. I mean, this kid is just a baller. He's got all the film for it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see come April what unfolds for sure. It'll be definitely something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, and what works against him, I mean, not that it certainly is the worst thing in the world. Luis Perez, the current starter for that Renegade squad, has been someone who's, he's had his cup of tea in the NFL. He had an illustrious college career and is someone that's kind of cemented himself in the XFL/UFL. He's been there for a few years and kind of been the guy for this program, so to speak. So for Luke to be behind him, they also have another quarterback there in that room you see on the graphic. But for him to be behind a guy like Luis Perez, who's been a pro at multiple levels for a long time, to learn under a guy like that and to cut his teeth, so to speak, at the professional level, if you can earn your way onto a UFL roster like that, I think you have to realize too, since the USFL and XFL have merged, you're only talking about better competition, right? You're talking about technically fewer leagues and fewer opportunities for these guys. So the fact that he's able to crack a roster on a UFL team, it's very impressive, man, because people go NFL, CFL, and UFL kind of in that second tier. The CFL is really tough for non-Canadians because they're limited to so many spots that they have to reserve for Canadian-born players. And so it maybe isn't the most fair shake in the world for a lot of Americans, but to crack the UFL, man, you got to be a special breed of player. Taking a look at the schedule for the Renegades in this upcoming year, their 2025 schedule, they open up March 29th, Jimmy, just 5 days from a recording this weekend. They open up against in San Antonio. I believe it's the Brahmas. And so they're going to be rolling really quick. I would be really excited to see. Obviously, Perez is going to be the shoe-in starter for them. Can they incorporate Lehnen into any kind of package? Obviously, his running ability has been put on display at the college level. Do they incorporate that into some of their offensive scheme? And obviously, if Perez goes down, is Luke the number 2 guy? Are they comfortable putting him under center right now, week 1? I think a lot of those questions still yet to be answered.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it like this. Like, if you're the Renegades GM, you bring in this Luis Perez, you have him start, you have him, he's your win now quarterback, right? Luke Lehnen is probably like the guy that you're tailoring to get him ready. It's almost like a Darnold and JJ McCarthy last year on the Vikings. Like, Darnold's really good. Like, you're gonna play this guy, he's super, super good. And now you have this other guy you're getting ready, and it's a good formula. You see a lot with like Brett Favre and Rodgers. And now with Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, it just trickles down. I hate that I just used the Packers analogy there, but that's just the formula that works. And I'm a huge Bears fan. I feel kind of ashamed that I just used the Packers as an example. But yeah, here we are.
There you go.
With that, but yeah.
No, I think that will be important for him, right? To learn under a guy, like I said, that's had his time in the pros at multiple levels, and to learn the ins and outs of an operation like that and to be a part of a camp at the pro level, right? That's really important for him to have a guy like that to guide him through it. I certainly would like to be tuned in when he gets those first couple of snaps, because that could be electric.
No, for sure. I mean, it's can't miss football. I mean, the kid's really, really, really good.
Before we close out all the D3 athletes going to play pro, there was one guy that I'd be remiss if we did not talk about on this show, and that is Louie Barrios, the quarterback from Delaware Valley, going over to play in Poland with the Krakow Kings. The man, Louie, one of our former D1R athletes, an absolute all-American type of quarterback and human. Absolutely have enjoyed him coming on the show. For those of you not familiar with his game, you're talking about a guy who had almost 5,500 passing yards, 45 passing touchdowns over there in Del Valle with the Aggies, and he ran for almost 1,300 yards as well, along with 20 on the ground. So talk about a prototypical dual threat type of guy and quarterback. He's going over there with a lot of stats, a lot of accolades, but also a 28-6 record as a starter for Del Valle, who has won a lot of big-time games, 2 conference championships. He was also a team captain for the Aggies at DVU. So this guy, I mean, I can't say enough about Louie, his play style, a big physical frame, and the guys over there in Poland are getting an absolute dog at the quarterback position. The Kings, they play in the Polish Football League, and they played most recently on the 28th, which is the day before I'm recording this on Friday. Louie had a touchdown, at least one running in that game. It was hard to try and track down some of that information, but definitely wanted to highlight our guy Louie going and playing over there, balling out overseas, and I certainly would not be surprised if he earns a chance at playing at some other big-time professional league, especially back in the United States. So shout out to Louie, shout out to all of these guys going to chase their dreams. Let us know who we missed. Some D2, D3 NAI guys that also have gotten themselves some pro contracts. Would love to hear who else we can highlight on this show. Thanks for tuning in.